Go.
Well, there was this question came up. And that question came up that was kind of difficult to answer. Not because I don't know an answer, but because the answer is a part of my history, because that's the question. Tell me something about how you understood and gained a bundle. What did that mean? How did that process look like? And it's hard for me because I got to revisit a lot of sad stories. So I thought we should probably try to answer that question, so we smoked a bowl of weed, and decided to try to give you an answer. But to do it is that way. Just wanted you to know, because I'm more than likely going to be a little emotional, and in that case, maybe my words would be hard to understand. So I'd ask you to listen carefully. I mean, after all, I was just trying to answer that question. How was it when I began to understand a bundle? There were lots of people involved, and I probably won't be naming many of them. Only maybe just some of them. And the reason I do that is because, sometimes people repent of good deeds. Sometimes, they just want their privacy. And sometimes, it's kind of like going to places I can't take you. If I were to sit in somebody's company and all I did was suffer ethno-trauma and insult, I probably wouldn't take them to the people I loved that were suffer likewise, right? And in that way, it's kind of that way that every bundle should probably open its own bundle. It kind of began with some friends of mine in Chilequin. I kind of want to blame all of that on Mike Bettles, because he was drunken Indian flying down the highway with somebody else's car, I'm sure, and he picked up a couple of hippie hitchhikers, and I was one of them, and he took them to his mother's home, Priscilla Bettles, out there by Chilequin, Oregon. And the other hitchhiker spent a few days, went on his way, and I guess that was like the end of it. But for myself, I spent lots of time with Priscilla and others, and met Quentin, her other son, and met Emery and Amos, and several others. She had a big family. Some of them kind of friendly, had some relationships with others. They probably won't want to be mentioned. There was where I met Fred Daniels, and he's a big white guy, but he's a bundle down there among the those Modukni, kind of that way, because he knows where lots of medicine roots grow. He knows where lots of different yampa patches are. He knows lots of different biscuit root. And I've often sent a lot of my little fairy friends over to visit with Fred Daniels, and he's out there by Chilequin, and I'm sure you could find him as long as he's still alive, And I spent time with Fred, and Fred showed me some things. I spent some time with Priscilla, and Priscilla showed me some things. I spent some time with Quentin, and Quentin showed me some things. I spent time with Mara and things like that, and even her children showed me things. And so as we began to develop and understand relationships, what it was that really began that process for me to know the bundle was this introduction. But for me to move beyond that introduction, it required a move of spirit. And I had met all these beautiful, lovely people, and they were sharing with me lots of different things, But that spirit I'm talking about would be the spirit of the love. And that spirit of love, cannot really exist outside of the truth. And I live in a culture that would use truth as a knife. And if you dare speak your truth, they're going to use it to try to kill you. Things like that. That's the real world. And it came to a point where, our affections grew strong. Quentin, he had an idea that he liked more than one wife. So he made an approach towards me, and I insulted his ego, and I didn't mean to, and I hurt his feelings. And I told him that without truth there was no love, and that if he wanted to choose something like this, that he should probably understand some truths. And he kind of brushed that truth off like it meant nothing. So you're training, so what? still my question is there for you. And at that point I told him no. So in that hurt state, that man decided to tell that truth on me. Try to kill me with that truth. And that's what was the move of the Spirit that moved me beyond a comfortable place where I was being given so much to. Went up towards Warm Springs Reservation some years later and met the family of the Smiths, related also to Quentin Bettles and Priscilla there. She's of that longhouse, the 7-drum longhouse. She's of that way. She was a Christian too. And some of the Smiths are that way, of the longhouse and of that Christian thing too. And it was Susie Smith at that time. That would be her maiden name. She's married now. Her brother was there, Footer, and I'd met him, and I'd seen him before. You know, he was, you know, somebody that we'd visited with on the way to Burns when I was running around with Quentin and his family. And then there was Claude Smith. Claude and his wife. And, you know, those people, they took me out and we dug. We dug different kinds of biscuits. The little ones, the short ones, the little round ones, the purplish colored ones. Because they were like for the children. They treated me like that. And we dug up the little ones. And we dug up yampa. And we dug up a few of those big long ones, like the big white flowering one. And they were showing me these things, you know, and gave me a little bit of a bundle of just a few roots like that. Like the ones that I was given, you know. And the bitter roots and things, you know. And a digger. And a digger. They gave me my first cupping. At that time I was riding around on horseback. Like much like I am nowadays. I can't walk very good. And so, you know, at that time I could walk pretty good. I just had that bad knee. But, you know, I rode out of there with those things, and then I came back like a year later. And as I rode into town, all the children of the whole village there at Warm Springs was running away from me. They were screaming "Stick Indian." And all I seen was little Indian asses ducking up underneath cars and houses everywhere I went, dodging up behind trees and trash cans. And as I rode through that village, that's what happened to me. And I rode up to Claude Smith's house there. And I told him what had happened. I said, there's a very strange thing happened to me on the way in. All the children did like that, calling me Stick Indian, and afraid of me. He said, I did that. I said, well, why? He said, he thought it was pretty funny. Don't you? I told him I thought it was hurtful. I don't know if he's telling me bullshit just as, or what. But he kind of laid down that truth, my own truth, that tranny truth right in my face, you know. That if you looked at the white people, you'd know it wouldn't be a man or a woman that'd ever want to pick up a bundle and try to return a life away. It'd have to be their nigger anyhow, and the people of the longhouse might have considered this for some time. He gave me a bundle of stick matches and told me that I'd been making myself unavailable and unwanted in that camp, and that I was a Stick Indian, and that somehow my tranny ass looked like the picture of something that they would expect would be the one that would come in and do something, because goddamn, you know, it wouldn't be these white people's women or their white women, their white man. Because he said to me, that white man, he's got his head up her butt all the time. And she's all what she is. She want to kill our grandmothers. And she ain't changed a bit. Same America, same people, same culture, same government. But somehow, in those prophecies, some white people would help in a returning of an old way. It was a long question, they said, in the longhouse, whether these people would be willing to kill this beautiful life-giving thing while these environmental crises were shocking them in their world? Would they ignore all things and make it a criminal thing to give up planting back people, even if it was their own children they had to kill to do it? And this is what it is to be me. I'm a nigger in every community, because I'm going to live in that truth, because I know that without truth there's no love. And these people only know how to use truth one way, and they have no love, because they're all liars. And if they have a piece of truth, they only use it for a weapon. And this is the world I live in. So everywhere I go, you know, I'm that nigger tranny with a losing hand. And I understand this with that bundle of matches given to me in my hand, like this lighter here, you know. There you go. I get up on my horses and I ride away. That's how it is. Well, that's how it kind of began. You know, and you look at my statistics in my work record and see some $27,000 earned in my entire lifetime, and no work, year after year after year. You probably figure I'm a drunken tranny out there doing sex service, you know, and whatever. That's what they would think, you know, looking at that. That's how they read their statistics, because I'm that nigger. But I've not been that drunken bum under the bridge or that whore on the streets sucking for a living. No, I hadn't been that all. I had not been there chinook, you know. They're that way. I hadn't been, what do they call that? Chupa. And I hadn't been there drunk. Instead, you know, I took that bundle of matches, and I took the knowledge of like 3 different biscuit root, and I started wandering around digging and eating and living in that way. You know, I came across places where people were like out in ceremony, different Indian things, you know, because I was kind of sniffing it out all the time. And I bet I knew a nigger, you know. I sat up on hillsides for a long time, listening to songs, watching dances, going down when they're done, and going through the fire pit, see what they were cooking, what was going on, what tastes like, dumpster diving them. Understanding sacred songs through automatopoeia, because I didn't know the language. I even took that whole idea right on into their round dance, and I continued to. And I wander around on these horses, you know. Spend a lot of time between these little nasty towns, little trash can towns. Spending most of my time out between places, coming upon things, you know, all over the West, meeting people all over. But all the time, everywhere I go, I see what looked like my biscuit, but be slightly different, you know. And I'd find a new one, and then I'd move on and I'd find another one, and I'd move on and I'd find another one. And everywhere I went, they seemed to change, but it was always the same brisket and same food, till I learned about 40, maybe easy learned 40, because a lot of them I wouldn't know. Is it a different one or a different habit? I don't know. But I think I pretty well know at least that much, at least. It's easy that. Well, that's kind of how it began, you know, and there's not a whole lot to talk about in it. I mean, the picture is there, you know, and it's been there a long time. I ran off with my little root digger and my stick matches and headed to Arizona, and on the way, you know, I just stayed on the biscuit root trails. And as I follow them, they keep changing. They change in the elevations up and down the mountains, I noticed. They change in longitude, and they change in latitude, and in every direction. They just keep changing. And I just was studying that. And I studied lots of things about it. Because, you know, I had understood certain things about it, that each one of these things I should be able to give it life, all that kind of stuff. And so I had to learn their habits and their ways, and I just watched them and understood. I spent time with them. I spent time with these plants just looking at them and watching how they are, where they lived, how they liked it, what was their conditions environmentally, what were their conditions, you know, where you found them. Because some of them are very specialized, and then yet others of them, you know, have very wide ranges. And seem to be very strong. And, you know, so you notice all that and you work that. And so, like, some people maybe go into school, you know, for 10 years to get a doctorate, you know. I don't know of any program anywhere, any educational program anywhere that they have a doctorate degree that would give me what I was looking for. And, you know, you can learn free market economy, but you can't find a free market economy anywhere in the world. You know how it is. Go to school. I didn't see anything there, so I did that. I spent my life in that. And that's kind of how I learned to get it. And took ownership. Started telling my own story in it, becoming an author, telling my own story in it. That's what they would call authority. But that came by taking ownership. First of all, that, you know, I'm that one that stole that pony from them people and put them on reservations like that. I understood that too. And ownership looked like that. But it's not enough to have sorry, because I didn't buy dog shit. It didn't have enough to have a lump in my throat and tears in my eyes. It only meant that one thing I could do: return that pony I stole, knowing I needed to, in some sort of repentance. Everybody else I know denies it. They say it wasn't them because it was their ancestors, but they go to decorate their ancestors' graves. And what would Jesus tell them? It proves perfectly well that they and their ancestors are one. It's like we know on the res, huh? Same culture, same people, same government, same attitude. And it became a necessity for me then to take that knowledge and move it and give it back. But not just to the tribes and the people I stole it from, but that thing that Claude Smith gave me with first. How could you expect any prophecy of a returning through some white people happen if you didn't find some place to give that bundle to the white people somewhere? That open bundle. I know a lot of people despise that open bundle of this weight. They're afraid that all the wrong people get to know it or whatever. But you can't despise that open bundle and not despise the very people who gave you that knowledge yourselves. So, those are despisers only, right? And that's all I'd have to say about it. Would need somebody prettier to me, because I'm a nigger tranny. That's why others have to be involved. I got the losing hand. I can't do shit. That's why all this stuff would be there for you. That's why the open bundle has to move forward. I'm getting too old. And that's a fact. And that's really, then, all I'd have to say about it. Thank you for your attention.